If success actually brought lasting fulfillment, the people at the top would feel complete, but they do not. Some of the most accomplished people in the world are still searching. And if they are constantly chasing the next level, chances are you are too. If you have ever hit a goal you worked years for and still felt empty afterward, or if you're still chasing that moment and wondering if it will finally be enough, this video is for you. I was recently talking with my university-aged kids about ambition and the pressure to achieve. And I shared something I wish someone had told me much earlier. That conversation is what inspired this video. There is a word in Gurbani that the Gurus described using the metaphor of a chronic disease. Not a mindset problem, not a character flaw, a condition so deeply woven into the human experience that none of us escape it. We are all born with it. And Gurbani tells us the cure is also found within it. I'm going to suggest that word is the reason the high of success fades. It is the reason it takes something from you when it does. And it's the reason most people spend their whole lives building on a foundation that was never going to be enough on its own. I'll get to that word, but first I want to show you the pattern, because once you see it, you will see it everywhere. A student spends 5 years working toward a competitive program, gets in, and within weeks, the internal voice has already begun. What's next? Who's ahead? Am I enough? An entrepreneur hits the number that was supposed to change everything. Within a quarter, that number is already the floor. The ceiling keeps rising. A parent builds a life for their kids for 20 odd years. And when the kids do not need them in the same way anymore, they feel oddly invisible. None of these people failed. In fact, I'd say every one of them succeeded in their own right. And every one of them is likely carrying the same restlessness underneath the achievement. The mind quietly moves the finish line and the chase begins again. Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Basically, we get used to the good stuff in our life. That is not weakness, it is a signal though. It's a signal that something deeper is driving the chase, and that something has a name. Imagine this, it's late at night, you're scrolling, you're on your phone, you see someone your age, they've built something impressive, achieved something you once imagined for yourself, and for just 1 second, something tightens in your chest. Not because you're not happy for them, you are, well, hopefully, but a quiet voice underneath asks, am I falling behind? You probably know someone who has felt exactly this. Keep watching. Most people feel that and just move on. They assume the answer is to build more, achieve more, climb higher. And if that does not work, they look for a different mountain entirely. The author of a book called The Second Mountain, David Brooks, describes this beautifully. He calls it the first mountain and the second mountain. The first mountain is the mountain almost all of us start on. Achievement, career, financial independence, building yourself into someone capable and self-sufficient. And there is nothing wrong with that mountain. This mountain is important so you can build the life you want for yourself and your family. But most high achievers eventually hit something they cannot climb past. An achievement that arrives hollow, a loss that does not just hurt, it destabilizes. And that becomes the turning point. Brooks calls what comes next the second mountain. A life built on commitment and devotion, on meaningful relationships and on service, on living for something larger than your own advancement. That is real, that matters. But here is what nobody is telling you. A lot of people who find the second mountain quietly discover something is still running underneath. The same restlessness, the same quiet hunger, the same finish line that keeps moving. Why? That is the question this video is built to explore. Everything we have covered so far describes the symptom. The Sikh Gurus diagnosed the root problem, and they did it 500 years ago with one word. The word is Haumai. It literally translates to I, me. Most people translate it as ego, but I think that translation is somewhat incomplete. Haumai is not the loud arrogance of someone who dominates every room. Haumai is quieter than that, and it lives in everyone. It is the deep sense of I-ness, the belief that you are self-made, that your worth is something you generate through your results, your performance, your reputation, that you exist separately apart from the one who created you. And once identity centers around that me, everything becomes about protecting that me, my success, my image, my progress, my reputation. Haumai doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. It's like a virus on a computer operating system that quietly runs in the background. Haumai tells you your worth depends on what you build. Slow down and you fall behind. If they get there before you, what does that make you? Haumai fuels that internal voice in your head. You know, the one that tightened in your chest when you saw someone your age succeed. That was Haumai driving that. Guru Granth Sahib, the first of the Sikh Gurus, described it as a condition that touches every part of human life. We are born in it. We die in it. Everything in between is filtered through the lens of I and me. Guru Angad Sahib, the second of the Sikh Gurus, gave it the most precise diagnosis. Haumai dirag rog hai, daru pi isma hai. Ego is a chronic disease, but the remedy exists within it as well. Think about what that actually means. The very I that has been building its own fortress, that same I, turned toward the Guru, becomes the doorway. Haumai does not dissolve by suppression. It does not dissolve by achieving less or withdrawing from the world. It dissolves by grace. When the Guru's Shabad pierces through, the I that was lost in itself finally comes home. When your identity fuses with your outcomes, you do not just experience results, you become them. Win and you expand. Lose and something in your core contracts. Praise lifts you. Criticism just doesn't sting, it threatens you because it's not feedback anymore. It is information about whether you still matter. You can be high performing and still internally unsettled. Because the real problem is not lack of success, it is misidentification. You are identifying with something unstable, something impermanent. And this is where the two mountains becomes clear. Because what Brooks identified is real. Researchers have even studied this. When your life is built around external markers like wealth, fame, how others see you, you report lower well-being. Even after you get what you're chasing after. But when you orient toward things that actually matter, growing as a person, real, deep, meaningful relationships, contributing to something beyond yourself, well-being goes up. Even when the external results are smaller. The first mountain, built on performance and achievement, is real and necessary to achieve your potential. But there is a depth it cannot reach. And the second mountain, a life of service, devotion, commitment, something larger, is a genuine and meaningful shift. But the research and Brooks are pointing in the same direction, away from Haumai, towards something larger. But here is where Sikhi goes further than either of them. Because even genuine intrinsic motivation, authentic service, real love for others, a life genuinely devoted to something larger can still be rooted in Haumai. If it's still about building my legacy of goodness, my identity as a spiritual person, my identity as a selfless person, the thing is, the engine underneath has not changed. Only the mountain has. Psychology stops at intrinsic. Gurmat goes deeper. Because the question is not just what is driving you, it's who is doing the driving. The Gurus were not pointing at a different mountain, they were pointing at a different ground to stand on entirely. And that is where the remedy Guru Angad Sahib spoke about comes in. The ground the Gurus were pointing at is not another mountain to climb. It is the recognition of who you already are. In Sikh understanding, the Aatma or the soul is not something you build or earn or prove. It is the divine light within you that exists before you have done a single thing to deserve it. Guru Amar Das Sahib, the third of the Sikh Gurus in the Guru Granth Sahib, says it directly. Mantu Jot Sarup hai apna mool pachan. That literally translates to, "O my mind, you are the embodiment of divine light. Recognize your own origin." Guru Amar Das Sahib is not speaking metaphorically. Guru Amar Das Sahib is not offering comfort. Guru Amar Das Sahib is making a precise statement about your identity, about my identity, about our identity. The Aatma within you is not something you built. It's not something you earned. It is of the same essence as the divine. Think of a sun ray. It is not separate from the sun. It is of the sun. It carries the same light, the same heat, the same nature, the same intensity. But the sun is infinitely greater than any single ray. That is the relationship between our Aatma and the One. You are not separate from the divine. You never were. And yet the One is beyond you, greater than you, greater than all of this, greater than all of us. Not distant, not indifferent, already here, already whole, already home. That is who you are before the title, before the achievement, before anyone decided what you were worth. The Atma does not expand when you win. It does not contract when you lose. It was never tied to any of that. In Sikhi, the way to realize your origin is through Naam. Naam literally means name or identity. But the deeper meaning, the one that actually resonates at a deeper level, Naam is the essence of the divine, already manifesting creation. Naam manifests as divine light and the ethereal divine music present in all creation. It is not something you go searching for. It is what is already here. The Guru is the bridge to Naam. And Naam is the antidote to Haumai. And the thing about Naam and Haumai, they cannot coexist. Where Naam is present, Haumai dissolves. Where Haumai runs, Naam cannot take root. Naam Simran is the remembrance of that truth. It is the daily discipline of returning, your mind sitting with your soul again and again until the remembering becomes who you are. Not once, not on the good days, every single morning before the world rushes in. Sit before the noise begins, breath by breath. Let your mind return to what it already knows. And from that place, everything changes. You still build, you still climb, you still compete and create and lead. The Sikh Gurus never preached walking away from the world. They lived fully in it. Guru Nanak Sahib himself lived as a householder, a farmer, a community builder. But you do it from wholeness, not toward it. Think about what that actually means in practice. The person building from this wholeness is not less ambitious. They move with power, grace, and humility, not Haumai. Because they're not slowed down by the need for approval. They're not paralyzed by the fear of failure. They are not secretly competing with everyone in the room. They can take bigger risks because their identity is not on the line. They can absorb losses without it threatening who they are. They can celebrate someone else's successes and without that quiet tightening in the chest. That is not weakness. That is the most powerful position you can build from. Think about the entrepreneur who builds with everything they have and does not need the outcome to tell them who they are. Think about the student who shows up fully because something in the work calls to them, not because they need to finish first. Think about the parent who pours into their children from a place so full it does not need to be returned. Same mountains, completely different ground. Brooks points you to the second mountain. Sikhi gives you the ground beneath both. So here is a question worth sitting with. If everything you have built disappeared tomorrow, the titles, the achievements, the things people respect you for, who would you be? Not what would you do next, who would you be? Would you still feel whole? Or would it feel like something essential has been taken? That's not a guilt question. It's honest data. It tells you exactly where your identity is resting now. So, of course, build, compete, lead, create, climb hard. But do not confuse what you are building with who you are. The mind quietly moves the finish line. Do not let it move the foundation. Root yourself in what does not move, and from that place, move powerfully in everything that does. If this landed, subscribe to my channel. In future videos, we'll explore Gurmat, the Guru's wisdom, and the intersection of modern science and personal optimization. And if you know someone who is chasing hard and quietly wondering why it's not enough, send them this. They will know why you did.